but we're going to now get into the social supports for infants and toddlers. And this finishes up our social chapter and gets us into the beginning of the guidance chapter. So one of the goals for working with young children is to have them form friendships together. You can do that through how you set up your environment. So if you want the children to play together, do you have containers that have enough materials for maybe 2 children to play together? Do you have enough space for a couple children to sit together? Using scripts, we're going to go through exactly what a script is and why you would use it. And modeling and interpreting for children. We've talked a lot about how teachers show how they think out loud and what to do by doing it themselves. So we're going to go into how to interpret for children, and then going into highlighting the good. So it's really easy, kind of scarily easy, to go around your day shooting down every time you see somebody doing something you don't want. And that leads to a really negative classroom. And we're going to discuss how you can be conscious of also balancing out, acknowledging when children are doing something you like and you want to see done again. So starting out, scripts, what those are and why you want to bother with a script. Now be honest with yourself. How often, or have you ever used this phrase with a young child? Use your words.
I have.
Yep. It's easy to do, right? You know you want them to talk. You figure they have enough words that they should be able to figure this out. And they should say something.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're really small, especially the infant classroom, the young toddler classroom, it can even go into the 2-year-old and 3-year-old, depending on the development of your children. They don't have the words, or if they do have them, they don't have the practice. Oh, yeah, I saw Janet's message saying she catches herself saying, use your words. Yeah, it's a really easy trap to fall into. Using a script, however, is what you say instead. It replaces. So when you feel that urge that somebody comes up to you and somebody's taken a toy away from them and they're just, and you're like, use your words. They've shared with you what they're capable already. Instead of saying use your words, you would say, you can say, Danny took my toy. Or you can say, I didn't like that. And I've noticed, especially with young toddlers, they appreciate having somebody share those words with them. And then they usually immediately turn around to whoever's bothering them or whatever they want, and they'll copy exactly that last bit. So you say the whole bit. You say, you can say, and then you give them what they can say. And then they will say to the next child, I'm playing with that, or I don't like that, or I need help. So we're going to practice it, because if you haven't done it before, you're like, why would I bother doing this? The more practice they get with your support, telling them what they can say, the more automatic it becomes, and the less likely you are to have to keep telling mentally, like, this is a use your words moment, kid. Tell me what you want. Instead, I'm practicing using language in ways that you find appropriate, and they can use their words after time and training. But just like everything else, they need you to model it for them. They need you to show them how. So here, this is where our chat feature is going to really get going. And this is our first practice. Janet's a child. Janet's watching 2 children play in the sensory table. So you see a picture here of 2 little ones playing in a sensory table. And standing about 6 feet away is Janet. And Janet's looking at them, and you can tell Janet wants to join, but she doesn't know how. look at these choices. What do you think would be a good choice for you to tell Janet? You could tell her, use your words, Janet. You could go up to the two children and just take over and say, can Janet play with you? I can see she wants to play with you. You could do C and say, Janet, this area is full, go play in block area. Or you can tell Janet, Janet, you can say, can I play? What do you think?
D.
Now, looking at this stuff, I know personally, I have done B a lot. Where I'm like, okay, I know what this kid needs, and it would be quickest and easiest for me if I just went and fixed it for her. Has anybody ever caught themselves just fixing it?
Yeah.
Because it's easy, it's fast, you get it done, and you can go on to something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you fix it for her, is she getting any practice in learning how to do it next time?
No.
So that's one of the reasons you would want to give her those words. So you'd say to her, Janet, you can say, can I play? And then you might actually be next to Janet and walk her over. You know, you're not dragging her over. Be bad. But you're like, can I go with you? And you can go with her and say, you can say, can I play? Try it and see if she can say, can I play? And if she gets stuck and she's too shy at that point, then you can ask her, would you like me to ask for you? And then you can do it. Does anybody see anything that could go wonky on you with this kind of scenario?
The children say no.
Ooh, I got a lot. What?
I think you can also add visuals too. If you have one that's not as verbal, maybe a nonverbal student, visuals would be good to just to have in your pocket or have a ring that shows a picture of two children sharing or playing together.
That's very interesting. I've never personally tried that, but I have seen good results in preschool classrooms with that. Yeah. Victoria said the children can say no. Yeah, free society, right? If those children say no, then say, oh, what could, actually, I'm not going to tell you, Victoria. The children say no, you've got a couple choices, right? You can either jump in there and say, yeah, I see some space right here. Yes, pretty much saying what you say doesn't matter. Or what other thing might you be able to do? That those children made the choice that it's a no. How could you honor that and still help Janet?
You can offer Janet the same thing they're doing and ask another children if they would like to play with Janet. Like make a whole other station doing the same thing that the other children were doing.
Okay, so find some similar materials and try to set it up somewhere else. That's definitely an option. Mm-hmm. If that's the only sensory bin and that's the only stuff you have for it, you might have to say, well, you might have to interpret for Janet and say, oh, that they're playing by themselves right now. Let's watch, and when one of them plays somewhere else, I can call you over. Where else would you like to play while we're waiting? And help them think through the problem solving of it. It's like, okay, if this material is not available, and in a toddler classroom, even if you have multiples of everything, there's gonna be materials that are not available, right? Let's say you have 5 trucks and you got 5 children playing with them. You have to scaffold and help that child realize problem solving. Well, what else can I do if that's not a choice right now?
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So let's see, scripts practice number 2. And here's a pretty common one, right? Ben is crying and clutching the toy ball, and Ruby's trying to pull it away from him. Now, you'll notice we focused on Ben here. That might not be your first option. Your first option might be to stop Ruby from attacking Ben's toy. But after you get that sorted out, what are you going to say to Ben? You're going to tell him it's okay? You're going to tell him you need to share your toy? Or are you going to tell him, give him the words to tell her?
See?
Mm-hmm. And I've been guilty of the first two. I'm not going to lie. If I know Ben's been playing with that ball for 30 minutes, you know, I'm going to, come on, let's let somebody else play with it. But in a toddler classroom, you should have more than one ball, right? You can't just have one cool toy.
Right.
You got that's just not going to work with toddlers. So if you have a ball, you need to have multiple balls. And you need to be able to help Ruby understand that he's still playing with it and she can't snatch it out of his hands. But Ben, if he's a toddler and he's getting really angry at somebody pulling on his toy, if he can't use his words, what are his options? What's a common reaction from a toddler that's getting their toy snatched away?
They're gonna hit. Like wanna hit.
Hit, bite, cry, look to the teacher to fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so Ben's at the crying stage right now, which is good for Ruby. Yeah, I'm seeing bite there, definitely. So if you give Ben the word, say, you can tell Ruby, I'm playing with this. You can say, I'm playing with this. And then wait and let him tell her. And after he tells her, then you need to share with Ruby, Ben just said he's playing. What else can you play with right now? And then help scaffold her into finding something else to play with. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because do we want him to hit? Do we want him to bite? It's the bane of a toddler teacher's existence, that biting stuff. So anytime you can support them in learning other ways to react, it helps you out quite a bit. All right, I couldn't find a good picture for this one. You're going to have to use your imagination. So we've got some children playing near the fence, and Juan decides he needs to go between the fence and those children to get to something he wants. What do you think is a common reaction that he might do?
Push.
Punch, somehow physically move them out of the way. Or he might, if he's one of those more introverted children, he might huddle down and just like do one of those football runs through it, hoping that they dissipate. Instead, using a script, you would tell him, you can say what? Type out what you think you would tell him. You can say, oh, I still have mine on private. I don't even know how to get that. Everyone in meeting. Ooh, I'm seeing a lot of polite Southern people here. You can say, excuse me. You can say, excuse me, excuse me. That was also my first inclination because I am also a South Texas person. However, if I was up north, the more likely thing you would teach Juan to say would be like, you can ask them to move, or you can say, please move. So either one of those will work. If you want it to be polite, you would say, please move, instead of just move. Excuse me, you might have to model and demonstrate what excuse me means, because that's not something that really tells a child what they should be doing. If somebody tells you, excuse me, what should you do? So you can definitely say, excuse me, but then you're gonna have to probably show the children what that means. Oh, Juan said, excuse me. That means he wants you to move a little bit so he can get through. And that just gives you the vocabulary you're sharing with them, right? Teaching them something new. Does anybody have a question on scripts? Does anybody have a question about why you have to say "you can say"? Well, just in case you do have a question you didn't say, when you put the "you can say" in front of it, that helps set the child up for what they need to repeat. If you just tell them, "excuse me," they're going to look at you like you're saying "excuse me." Does that make sense? Giving wait time.
Yes.
Okay. If you have questions about this later and are wondering how you can use it in different scenarios, I'd be more than happy to share it with you. I found it to be very, very, very powerful, especially in a young toddler classroom. I've seen amazing things done with this in a young toddler classroom. All right, how do I get to the next? There we go. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is interpreting emotions for children. Why do we name and describe emotions for children?
Because they don't know what they're experiencing and how to, the phases of it.
Mm-hmm. And it's like any other new vocabulary word you're sharing with them. They need multiple repetitions, and they need to have the name, and they need to have some sort of definition and how to figure it out. So as you name the emotion, you also kind of describe what you're seeing or how you're feeling that goes with it to make the word meaningful. So Janet pointed out to me yesterday, it's not just facial expressions, it's also body language. Young toddlers are pretty demonstrative in their body language. They tense up, their shoulders will go up, their faces scrunch, the lips go down really easily, because their body language and their facial expressions, that's really their first way of communicating. It's still really strong with them. Whoa. All right, so here's our first practice. And I'm sure this has happened to nobody before, but you're going inside after having a really good play outside, and you have somebody that's dragging at the end of the line. They're dragging their feet, they're crying as the group walks to the door to come inside. What might you tell them? You could say, A, hurry up, it's time for washing hands and lunch. Come on, hurry up. You can do B, I can see you're reluctant to come inside. You're dragging your feet and you look sad. Or you can say C, you're okay.
B.
I have been guilty of all of these, for good or ill. I know I have told more than one toddler that was freaking out over what I thought was nothing, that you are okay right now. Nobody is hurting you. But they don't feel okay. So that it's confusing when you tell somebody you're okay and they definitely don't feel okay. Think about if you had, I don't know, something wretched happen. Let's see, your kitty cat died and you're sad and you're crying. How would you feel if somebody went up, patted you on the head and said, you're okay? I wouldn't like that. I would prefer somebody to say, I understand that this hurts right now. And I would be happier with that rather than the you're okay. Telling a kid to hurry up, that's also a time saver, isn't it? You do want them to hurry up. You're missing an opportunity to teach. Do that. If instead you take that opportunity to teach them something, I put a vocabulary word in there, reluctant. That's not a word you usually use with little children, but you can use The same kinds of words you would use with adults, with children, if you use them frequently and give other information so they understand what the words are. You could very easily just say, I see you're sad to come inside. That's okay too. But feel free to add those bigger words on there and just describe what's happening. I can see you're dragging your feet. You look sad. You could even follow up with saying, you're dragging your feet and you look sad. We're going to go outside again after nap time. Right now, we're going to have lunch. I see everybody put B, so we're good on that. Oh, shoot. It says my computer is dying. Okay, let me plug it in. All right. Carrying on. All right, here's our interpreting practice number 2. Sam has just pushed and he's crying. Now, is Sam physically hurt? Probably not, but his feelings are hurt. So he's been pushed. What can you tell him to interpret his emotions? You can say, A, don't cry. You can say, B, you look angry. You're crying and I can see your forehead is scrunched up. Or you can say, C, come here, it's okay.
B.
Yep. So you can still add the C on there if you want, but take the opportunity to teach him something. Oh, Sam, you look angry after you were pushed. You're crying and I can see your forehead is scrunched. And then you say, would you like a hug? Come here, I can give you a hug. So it's fine to provide emotional support for the children like that. It's great. But try not to miss the opportunity to teach them something too. At the bottom here, I have a trick question for you now. We're going back to the scripts. What script could you give Sam to tell the child that pushed him?
You can say, I don't like when you push me like that.
Mm-hmm. Depending how old Sam is, you make it short enough that he's able to repeat it, right? So if Sam has a fairly good vocabulary, you can give him a longer script. If Sam is barely verbal, you need to make sure it's a short script. So I see Alicia said you can say, I don't like it when you push me. So here, I'm going to retype what you said, Alicia. You can say, I don't like that. You can say, I don't like that, if that's the shortest one. And make sure you put it where the child can immediately repeat it. So I see you said you can say, you didn't like that. So if Sam was to copy you, he'd be saying, you didn't like that. So you need to put it into words that Sam can immediately repeat. So Sam, you can say, I don't like that. You can say, don't push me. What else, ladies? What else can Sam say? You can say something that Sam can immediately turn around and say that won't start a fist fight.
You can say, give me my space.
I like that. I'm trying to think of how that can be cleaned up a little bit. Give me my space. It's very appropriate. I don't know how Southern that is, but it's very appropriate. You can say, oh, okay, I see Alicia said that hurt. Yeah, definitely, that hurt. That's even shorter than I don't like that. I have heard children as young as, I'd say, 18 months running around. Oh goodness, the social distancing, Janet. I've heard 18-month children very consistently able to tell their peers, I don't like that. It's hilarious, honestly. You're not going to tell them, Janet, you're not social distancing. Stop it. Give me my 6 feet. Okay. All right. And here's a little bit of a curveball for you too. So we have Lily, she's in the home area. She's setting out a plate of food for her baby doll. What can you tell her about emotions? Remember, we're describing emotions right now. This isn't a script one. I see you are happy. That's a really good start. Somebody sent me a private one that said, I see you're happy. That's great. Now, how would you describe to her that what happiness is based on her expression or what she's doing? Anybody? How do we interpret that she's happy? What are we seeing? I see you're smiling. That's a good one. So you could say, oh, Lily, I see you're happy. You're smiling so brightly. So that's not the opportunity that you run in there and disrupt her play and say how many carrots are on your dish and what color are they. It's an opportunity to teach her something about a positive emotion. And I do see Nikki's that, what are you serving the baby? That's fine too. But if you wanted to put in an emotional interpretation on it, then you would address how she is looking at that time. All right, and our last one, Janet pointed out to me that my time is running out. This is our last one we're talking about today, is highlighting the good. So we discussed how easy it is for you to run around and point out every bad thing children are doing. And when you follow children around picking at them and telling them they're wrong, they start internalizing that I must be a really bad person or I must be a really bad child because all I'm hearing from the teacher is that I'm bad and wrong. So instead, you have to catch them doing something that you like. And for a child that you constantly want to follow after and pick, that is really hard to do. But you have to force yourself. I've even had some teachers that have had a counter of some kind in their pocket, or they'll put some beans in one pocket. And every time they give a positive, they'll move it from one pocket to another to remind them that they need to do positives. So here's our first practice. I've got Janet again. Janet hands her shovel to Jay as she gets out of the sandbox. What can you tell her to highlight what she did that was awesome? You could do A, good job, Janet. You could do B, you handed your shovel to Jay. He looks very happy to start digging. Or you could do C, Janet, put your shovel in the box when you're finished. Don't hand it to Jay. I'm so pleased nobody's putting C on here. Okay, and the reason we're going with B is because it's giving Janet the same affirmation that good job does. So, but instead of just saying good job, you're telling her precisely what she did that was good. Good job, she could walk away saying, yes, I did do a good job walking out of that sandbox. So when you tell her, I appreciate that you handed your shovel to Jay, and look at Jay, he looks very happy right now. It's like a twofer. You're telling what Jay's emotions are, and you're sharing with her that you're pleased that she did and explicitly what she did. All right, and here's for an infant room. This happens frequently. Max pats Cindy gently on the shoulder before he crawls to dramatic play. So what can you tell Max? You could say A, Max, you used a gentle touch. B, Max, don't touch Cindy. Or C, go around her, Max, go around. Yep, A. even if Max is one of the people that 9 times out of 10, he grabs somebody's hair and yanks it down before he crawls away. If you caught him for that one moment, giving a gentle touch and then leaving the child, you definitely want to reward him in some fashion for that and let him know that, hey, that was an awesome behavior. I would like to see you do that more often. So Max, you used a gentle touch. That was so nice, so gentle. So, you know, really build it up. All right. And I love this picture, y'all. I want a little bit older one, but he was too precious to pass up. So it's what we were going with. So John sits and waits in front of his cubby after he's been prepared to go outside instead of running around and tearing stuff up. What can you tell John to highlight what he's doing that you like?
I like that you're waiting so patiently.
Ooh, very nice. John, you're sitting so patiently. We really appreciate that. We'll all be able to go outside together. John, yeah, that's really nice. We can get everybody together near the door to go outside. But yeah, that's great. Does anybody have anything different they want to share for that one? It's okay if you don't. All right. So that gets us done with this session. So those of you that stuck through it to the end, you don't have to watch the recording. You've got this one covered. We are going to get together with the 2 mentors and figure out and make sure we have the list correct, and they'll be contacting you within a couple days. So look out for text and emails from them. Does anybody have any follow-up questions about the mentors or about the presentation for today?
No.
No.
Okay, does anybody, if anybody has any kind of homework they want to stay on and get assistance with, I am more than willing to stay on as long as you want today. If you have your homework done and you feel confident you're going to finish it, you can go ahead and hang up. I appreciate you being here today. If you want to hang on and do homework with me, please do so. Have a great day, everybody.
You too.